Hey guys, how you doing? So here's the next video in the update of the studio scale Empire Strikes Back Avenger Star Destroyer. This is built off Marvin Stifelhagen's acrylic base kit, which I think you've seen in the first video. And yeah, now I'm just going around adding all the tiny original styrene kit parts and plastruck tees and all that sort of thing. This has all been ID'd before me. I've yet to make, I think I made one ID on the front. I think Marvin and Lee already had, so I can't really claim that. But the work that Marvin, the ID work Marvin and Lee and that have been managing to do is incredible. It's some of these parts are so tiny, yet they're managing to ID them. I mean, the last one that I've just added on was this guy here, and it's just tiny. But I'm having a blast with it. It's really therapeutic. It's really fun to do. It's draining because there's a lot of panel work. You're cutting styrene and there's tons of that heaped over there, and of course you've got all these model kits that are piling up behind me, and I'm reaching over to get a kit out and I'm knocking it all the time, so I might have to reposition all my donor kits. But that's that side. So not only is it just a case of, as I said, putting your kit parts on, you've also got to work out all your panels, and then there's panels on top of panels and then kit parts underneath them, and there's chips on top of the panels, and they're not only square, they're cut at an angle, and there's it's just it's great fun, but it's very time consuming. And it's quite funny because whoever's building this originally, like Lawn Pizza or whoever, they're putting the squares over the ejector pin marks. So there's a couple of holes there in the crocodile piece there, and they've put chips over them. So yeah, Star Destroyers don't have circles in them apparently. So I thought that's quite funny. And it's really interesting building it and seeing how their mind worked when they're building these things, and how intricate the parts are. And not only are the parts nicely put on, it's tricky because a lot of them are sawn, so you have to work out how they interact with the other kit parts, because they've been adapted and sawn through with a hacksaw and then cleaned up and pushed against another kit part, and you're like, oh Christ, yeah, that's that particular part, or that part's put on backwards. When you snip a kit off the sprues out of a brand new kit, the idea and thinking is that you literally just plonk it on. So you get your kit part, like this for example, you'd put it on with the detail flat against the model, not not shown, so that who's building it, I think it's Norman Peterson, when he was building it, he was putting the kit parts on backwards. Again, another way to throw us builders in the future. And then there's bits of wire next to those crocodile tank treads, but I'm having such fun with it, and it's huge as well. It's massive. But I don't think I'm painting this one. I'm going to keep this one just literally with the kit parts showing, because they're great fun to see, and I've got enough painted models. I need one just showing the kit parts. Okay guys, just working my way onto the underside now of the bridge. And this is a prime example about how you go through expensive kits. So on this section here, I can see from I haven't got many ref pictures from underneath the head, but what I have got is Lee Stringer's ref, and it's amazing. You know, it's like he's done such a beautiful job of his. Then, you know, it's so accurate to the studio version. It's absolutely essential that I cheat and use his pictures and just look at how he's doing, which is fine. You know, that's just how we all share ideas, and I'm truly thankful for Lee for posting the pictures and letting me see his work. So yeah, as I say, down here there is a tank part, and it is the Matilda. So that's the Matilda. They're the running skirts that go on the side of the Matilda tank, and they're a very iconic part of the front of the Star Destroyer. So flip it underneath. I can see from his ref pictures that it's a Matilda part, and I was like, oh great. Well, he hasn't told me what they are, but I'm now becoming so familiar with the kits that I'm using that, you know, I can search through and find all these just by, you know, seeing them in the boxes, in the sprues, so I know what I'm looking at. Anyway, I thought, oh great, it's a Matilda. And I was like, well, that's not 1/35th scale Matilda, because the 1/35th scales are on the front and they're huge. And this has only got to fit, you know, a gap, that sort of size. So I was like, oh great, well, you know, if it's half the size, it's going to be a 1/48. And Tamiya didn't do 1/48 back in the 70s, but Bandai did, and Bandai are all over the Sandcrawler. So I know that, you know, they're all over the TIE Fighter as well, Panther G Bandai. So I quickly grabbed an old yellowing box of a Matilda, and I was like, oh great, yep, it's half the size. And I went through the box, found my Matilda part, cut it all down to size, which we have here. Bear in mind, this is a £50 kit, you know, at the best. Put it on, and I was like, oh, whoa, that's twice the size. And I was like, oh no. So obviously that's not right. But on the front of the neck is the Airfix Matilda, which is again an old kit, 1/72nd scale, again half the size. Cut it down, and there we have it. And it's just a case of just looking through your kits and making sure you have the right one, and don't start cutting up a £50 at least vintage model kit without doing your measurements and looking thoroughly. But okay, anyway, that's just what I thought I'd share. Okay, so I'm working on this side part here. All around here, and I'm adding all these little chips of styrene that have been added. And again, it just goes down to the genius of how ILM made this, and they weren't happy with just literally putting on a part that, you know, wouldn't really be seen on screen that well. They had to pepper it with chips and more cannons from the battleships and that sort of thing. But I've had to stop because I haven't got this part that goes on underneath, and I could measure it and then put the rest that I have got underneath here. But that, excuse my squeaky chair, but that it presents problems, because you get to a point where you guess the parts, and that's not right. You can't go guessing, because you end up making further mistakes along the line. Yeah, so now I suppose I've got to move on to another section. I bought the kit, so, you know, whenever these kits turn up on eBay, I just snap them up, because, you know, I need to progress on the build. So now I need to swap round. I think I'm going to go around and do the other side of that, which is around the corner there. So yeah, yeah. Again, it's interesting. They've put a bit of styrene, just literally a plate of styrene over detail. And then there's some cannons on there that I've got to now go through all my kits and see which cannons they are, because they don't quite look like the ones with the 3 barrels. They're 2 barrels, but they're 2 barrels planted on like a flat base. So they're slightly they're not as detailed as the Tamiya ones, so now I've got to look at FX Revell and just see if I can find them. Another thing I've noticed on the ref, there's a circular shape inside here, in there, which looks to be like a lifeboat part. And originally I've been going through all my kits to see if I can find lifeboat parts, and the Nelson Tamiya 1700 Nelson does have the lifeboats, these circly things, and if I put it up in between these two lines, they're just too big. So back to the drawing board and going through all the kits, and then I found one. I think this is the Prince of Wales. I think this is Prince of Wales, and they're a lot smaller, and they fit in much nicer in between those two lines. So I can snip that off, and that's another part ID'd. Well, not ID'd, but completed. Whether it's right or not, I don't know, but it seems to fit. Okay, so this is the part we have right here. If I can get that in focus. That's how small it is. Tiny, weeny little lifeboat. And that's going to sit there. So just pop a little bit of Tamiya thinners, Tamiya thin cement in there, and don't use your fingertip because you will leave a fingerprint. Push it on with your blade. You've just got a second or two to manoeuvre into position, and there you have it. But that's the point. I want to get this accurate. If it's not right, I'll leave it off. So I'm not going to just put parts on that look right, but aren't correct. I'm not even going to put parts on that look similar. It has to be right, and if it's not right, I'll leave it off. I don't want to have a Star Destroyer that's inaccurate, but still looks big and loads of parts all sticking out of it. To me, that's not right. That's not what I'm going for. Other people, if they want a big Star Destroyer that's peppered with other parts that aren't right and just wheels stuck on and tank parts and that sort of thing, fair enough. But I know that 90% of this Star Destroyer is made up with battleship parts, and I've got to just keep looking through those battleship parts until I find the one. Marvin has done all the hard work. Lee has done all the hard work before me. The RPF has done all the hard work before me. But there's one or two parts, like this little lifeboat thing, that that I can't find. But I've got the up close pictures of it, and I'll just try and find it. Okay, so also on the side here, there's two like tubes that run along, not tubes, but links of like pipe work. For that, I'm going to be using brass rod. And bending that into shape. And for the brass rod, I'm using K&S Supplies, and it's 8160. So I'm going to be adding that on next. And then we have these two brass bits. Sorry about that lighting. Yep, that's all stuck on there. Oh God, this light is horrible. Anyway, you can see what I've been doing. That's better. Okay, so I'm going to move on to this section now. And the big two kit parts have been laid down in place, and now I need to add the panelling, which I'll be doing with the 0.75 mil styrene sheet. So I've got to now add all the panelling that goes around here, and then I can then go ahead and start adding the kit parts on. Okay, so I've cut my panel out, and that just sits like that. I'll turn that around so you can see. That just sits in like that. There's a little bit of wiggle room there. But we've got all these rough edges. So we get the old sanding stick and give it the old 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And you are just getting rid of that harsh edge and taking the burr off the styrene, so you don't get that horrible lip. So if I look at, I don't know if you can see, let me move the light around. This one, okay, it's hard to see. So there's a lip that goes all the way across there. I can feel it. You can sort of see it come off as I move the scalpel over it. That's what we're trying to sand off. And now you can see the bit that I've sanded has a slight edge to it. Running all the way down there, it's got an edge. So that lip has been removed. So when I put that on, it's not going to have that lip. And when you hit it with primer, it's not going to show up. So yeah, there you go. Don't know if you can see that. It's really hard to show up on the camera. Anyway, that's the idea. And here we have it sticking there. There's a pencil mark there I've got to get rid of, but and that gets flooded all over there with the styrene. So that's how we're sitting at the moment.